Alrighty, guys, welcome back and got the mid-season reviews this time and got a special guest. You've probably seen me on a few of his videos, and I thought it's about time I returned the favour. So I got Luke from the Rugby League Lounge, brilliant page. I love it, good ideas and some quirky stuff as well. It's probably fair to say, but I like that sort of thing. It's thinking outside the box, and definitely give him a follow if you haven't already. Some great content, Luke. I'll let you quickly come on before we get into this mid-season review and just maybe give your page a little bit of a spruik.
Yeah, cheers, Joel. Once again, thank you very much for, hopping on my page, basically weekly. Really appreciate that. And I guess quirky wasn't really the angle I'm going for, but yeah, no, I'll take it. Yeah, I've got my own page called the Rugby League Lounge, and I do try to put my own little spin on rugby league. So like kind of recent topics. I'll kind of put different angles on it that kind of haven't been explored and just look at fun concepts just to engage fans. So yeah, the Rugby League Lounge, if you want to check that on Instagram and Facebook and also YouTube as well.
Yeah, I meant quirky in all the best ways possible. So
Oh, I appreciate that.
It's a brilliant page. Now we're going to do it. We're going to get into it. We're going to just go off every team so far, going from the ladder down, up, and up, and then just give our little probably 1 minute on each team what we think so far mid-season. A little bit over, but basically with the rep round, it's a good time to do this. And I've looked at the ladder today, and it sort of shocked me a few of the sides and where they're placed. So it'll be an interesting video, I think. And let's get it started. Broncos first up, sitting in last. They've only got 3 wins so far and a points differential of minus 250. Luke, you can start with the Bronx.
Well, I think it's Kiwi for me. I guess I was unsure about his signing. I was looking kind of with an optimistic hat on, thinking, yep, bring back a Broncos legend. It's something that has been criticised in the past, that they've been shunting them out. So bring one in. But at the end of the day, there hasn't been really a buy-in. There's been a lot of cracks that I thought were kind of shutting, reopening. And look, if you tell me Kiwi's not there at the end of the season, I wouldn't be too surprised. And I think we're going to get a situation with Paul Green with the Queensland. It looks like he might be a potential suitor for the Broncos, but just referring to him, it only looks like he's going to be potentially given the series. It's just this world we live in that you've got to make most of the opportunities. And even though players aren't performing, there just hasn't been a cohesive unit for me. And yeah, I don't know about Kiwi's resume as a coach so far. He's had a go at rep and now club. I just don't know where he stands as a coach. So yeah, Kiwi has kind of left me shaking my head because he's such a nice guy. I want him to work out, but it just hasn't so far.
Yeah, it's an interesting one in terms of Kevy. I'm in the same sort of boat as you. I guess for the Broncos overall, they've now had the change of coach. And look, you can probably argue this year that it wasn't all Seabold. There's a lot of issues at that club that go beyond just the coach. And I'm talking both player-wise and also above that in the corporate boardrooms and stuff like that. I think there's some massive issues that they're trying to slowly get to, but it's a massive fall from grace if you think about that club where they were probably 4 years ago to now. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any better anytime soon, unfortunately. I know they got Reynolds next year, but the more this season goes on, the more I'm starting to think Reynolds isn't going to do anything for him. I love Reynolds as a player, but yeah, it's a very disappointing year so far for the Broncos. You've definitely got to give them like an F or something, or even probably lower. Go on to the Dogs. The Dogs are on 6 points. They've only had the 2 wins, though, so they've obviously had a buy in there. But the Dogs are a bit of an interesting one because for mine, they have shown a little bit of heart. They have shown a bit more with Barrett and looking as sort of like the last few weeks anyway, they're starting to look like a team that is trying to do something and turn that corner, and there's some definite positives coming out of that club. But at the same time, they're sitting equal last, and there's obviously some things that are still happening. They've got to fix up a few I think they need some more forwards and better forwards is my thing, and maybe some better half pairing, which will get fixed next year. But what do you make of them so far, Luke?
Well, I basically was thinking about this today when you said we're doing a season review, and I had the Broncos sorry, not the Broncos, the Bulldogs predicted 12th. And I'm like, why did I have them predicted 12th? Because I look at their roster and look at a few things that have worked out. And I'm like, this team, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at the 15th. And a lot of the big reasons was the signings. And let's face it, these signings haven't kind of, reached the expectations that we expected. Kyle Flanagan's a big one. I know he wasn't playing good, but it's one of those things, bit of persistence. You've obviously signed him to be a long-term halfback. And you could see early on that, yes, hey, you're not going to make the 8. Grind the season out with Kyle Flanagan. Yes, Jake Averillo, I think he's a brilliant talent, and I think somehow you got to find him in the lineup next year, probably at fullback. But I think I'm a Flanagan believer, and yeah, I just don't feel like he's been given the chances. He's been from one of the most uncomfortable situations last year, being having to replace Cooper Cronk's jersey to being in arguably the worst team in the comp for the Bulldogs. Corey Allen hasn't worked out, and Nick Kotrick, a bit of optimism now with him shifting the wing. I think that's probably his best role. But yeah, they've got a few, like you said, signings coming in next year. Also big signings, Trent Barrett. Is he got a lot of praise for kind of developing Cleary last year, but is he a first grade coach? Look, we talk about like what your resume looks like so far. He hasn't had a very good start, but yeah, it's early stages. But yeah, for me, the signings has probably been quite a main talking point for me. And just before we go off, talk about a good signing. Luke Thompson, obviously, was last season. I think he's been their player this season. He goes out there and he just puts in the effort and is he's almost a top caliber prop in the NRL for me. He's been a clear standout for Dogs.
Yeah, I'd say easily he's probably been the best one. And I do feel a bit for Flanagan at the moment. He's sort of been chucked around here, there, and everywhere the last 2 years of his career, and I think that's just starting to impact his confidence as well. Moving on, there's 3 teams we're about to talk about now, and they're probably been my biggest disappointments this year so far. First one's the Tigers, sitting 14th. They've only had 5 wins, minus 132 points differential. This side, I had them around the 8 at the start of the year as my prediction. Silly me. They just had no consistency whatsoever. They seem to just want to give up as soon as one little thing goes against them. There's not real much leadership at the moment. Tamo was brought there to be the big leader. I think he's failed in that for now, if I'm being brutally honest. And look, the coach, I do know Maguire is trying to instill that real Madge Maguire side that was seen a few years ago, but I think the game's moved on from that. I don't think they've adapted to that. So I guess a lot of it lies on the captain and the coach. What do you make of the Tigers so far, Luke?
Yeah, man, they're an inconsistent side. They're shambles. They are really a shambles, to say the least. The Tamou one's an interesting take. I tend to disagree in the fact that I think you have to do it by committee. And at the moment, he's like the only leader there. Now, when they signed him, it kind of seemed like, okay, we signed a guy to help our culture. Now we can sign a guy to kind of take a chance, kind of be like a project. So they just kind of like a James Roberts, It looks like they need to focus on signing guys that don't worry about talent, don't worry about the feel-good stories, worry about the guys that are going to commit, they're going to set the standards from the get-go. Then once you get that culture, get those guys you can take risks on, get the Tavita Pan guys, but build that base first, those guys you can trust. Get the Fanukins, get the Tarmows, even Brandon Smith's a guy that's been a part of the environment. Keep the Benji Marshall, keep the guy you can trust, then get the project. Set that environment first, and then aim for the stars. So for me, it's just, they're always in the rumors. I remember when they tried to sign Latrell 2 years ago. Look, yeah, get that trusting environment first and then go for the big guns.
If they're fair income about the next couple of years, and this is obviously more about this year, but if we're going to quickly touch on it, is that they need to pay overs and go all out for Dale Finucane for mine. He is a must for that club. He will set a massive standard. He'll help Tamo a bit in his last couple of years there at the club, and he's the one that will not stand for the crap that goes on there. There's obviously quite a bit of it because it's been around for a while now, and they just need. I feel sorry for their fans. I do have a soft spot for the club because I've had family that have played for them, and it's hard to see them this way. Like, it's a club that hasn't made finals since I think 2011 or something. So
It's the longest drought, eh?
it's crazy. So hopefully they turn it around. They need some massive personnel changes, some real hard nose, as you said, rugby league players. The next one I was interested to see that these guys were so low. I felt like 2 weeks ago they were in the 8, and now they're coming 13th, which is the Titans. And
Yeah.
another they're on 10 points as well, so 5 wins and minus 94. So they're not going too well. A couple of weeks ago, I'm pretty sure they were in the 8. They've had a couple of losses in a row and by some big margins. And obviously, the most recent one was against Manly, where they just fell apart in the second half, had no ball, and you can't let Bojovic have that much ball against you. He'll rack up the points very quickly. But this is a team that I definitely had in the 8. If they don't make the 8 this year, I think it's a massive fail for especially what they've got. I know they are building still, but what do you make of the Titans so far?
Oh, look, there's two sides of the game, really, isn't there? There's attack and defense, and their attack's good. They can put points on, but their defense, 50 points in the second half against Manly. And it's like, do you go, because you see, I'm going to make a weird NBA comparison here. You see teams now go all in on their attacking game. They design their team around 3-point shooting because the more 3 points is more than 2. So with the Titans, do they just go all out? Do they go all out and just say we focus on attacking footy and their next key signings focus on that? Or do they need to hang on? We need to kind of get rid of a couple of these guys that are definitely big factors while we're leaking points and get some established guys, but then it's going to take away from their biggest strengths. So it's that balance. But at the moment, it's too much attack and defense. It's just, there's two sides of the game, but it's one of those things like if you want to play to your strengths, I don't know. Can you do both? Can you get better at your strengths and lift up your floor for your weakness? I'm unsure, but it's been disappointing because I had them 7th coming into this year.
They're just so confusing at the moment. It's like when I watch them, I feel like they're trying to play touch footy every game. It's just
I've been thinking about the Cameron Smith what if the last couple of weeks actually. Yeah, like
he's
for me,
exactly what they need.
I know it's only one player, but man, like you see, like the effect Turbo has, like he can just bring just a sense of just wanting it on the defensive end, So what if?
Moving on to 12th, and it's a team for mine that I have so many questions and not many answers to. It's the Knights coming 12th, 6 wins, 12 points, minus 131. So a pretty decent minus there. It's a weird one because I haven't felt like they've been getting that smash, but perhaps they have been, and I just sort of flying under the radar a bit there. But they have had a couple of injuries, but every team this year have. I don't think that's a good enough excuse this year. Every team's pretty much copping it now or has copped it. Once we get to the Storm, they've probably had some of the biggest names out, and they're at the top of the ladder. So the Knights are an interesting one. I really just don't get them at all, and I think this year is massive. A key final last 10 games or something for them, because they've just been in and around the 8 for a few years now, and they always just keep falling short by a couple of games, and or they just hang on to the 8 for one of the years, and that sort of feels like their leave pass has happened. And I think there's a massive player culture issue there at that club at the moment. I feel like the players aren't all in. I think there's some massive pressure on O'Brien, who from all reports is a great coach, will do some great things. I just don't think he has his sort of players all there at the club at the moment. They're just so, you look at the good clubs and you see that all their players are sort of get along and they're a big group. I just don't see that at Newcastle at the moment. I feel like there's a few different groups, and when they're on the field and when they celebrate tries, and it's sort of like they're half-assed, if you know what I mean. Luke, what are you making of the Knights so far?
Yeah, I'm just going to go off last year. Probably one of my best, just to, pat myself on the back, one of my best predictions last year was Adam O'Brien coming in and kind of getting that. He actually, we're talking about the culture falling off. He actually regained a bit of culture last year. I still remember that first game against the Warriors when they kept them scoreless. And that was huge. It was just, I remember the Knights guys clapping each other on the back like they celebrated the last drop ball for the Warriors, like they'd won the grand final. Like, it was fantastic. So, to think that they gained the culture and lost it, look, and why that is, I think that's double-edged sword of having Mitchell Pearce. I think obviously we saw how valuable he was against the Warriors last week. He ultimately was a key reason why they won that game, and ultimately is a huge reason why they haven't been able to win games this year because of an absence. But the optics before the season started was based around Mitchell Pearce, and there's been a lot that's gone on in the past as well. And I think even though they're better with Pearce, I think it's one of those marriages that is going to end. And for me, I think it'll be interesting, and I think he will depart at some stage. And it'll be interesting because I don't think Adam O'Brien's the problem. That's probably the main focus I want to put, because I thought he brought a lot of good to the club. So if I hate to blame on someone, but I just feel like as soon as the season started, we had drama already, and it did. Mitchell Pearce was the source, and I think someone has to go, and Pearce might be the guy. And even though it sucked to lose the talent, it might be a long-term gain.
Moving on, the 11th place. This one I just want to be quick on because there's a few other teams I want to spend a bit more time on. But the Warriors for mine sitting 11th, 12 points and minus 70 points differential. And for mine, look, you could forgive the club if they were coming last. It's obviously they're away from home again this year. It's been really tough for a lot of their New Zealand-born players. Luckily, they've got a couple this year that are more Australian-based, so they're probably used to this. But it's just hard for a club. They've got no home ground advantage. Normally going over to New Zealand, it's a massive advantage for the Warriors when teams have to go over there. They haven't been able to. Nathan Brown's first year, I think you can definitely, even though they're sitting 11, you can give him a pass mark just because of the circumstances that's currently happening. What are your thoughts on the Warriors?
Like I basically just kind of echo everything you say about the Warriors, but I guess we'll just touch on, we've been looking at this at a different angle. The Reece Walsh, obviously we've been like, how the Broncos let him go. Let's give applaud to the Warriors here, and how, one, they snagged him. I'm not too sure how much they paid him, but they probably had to take a little bit of risk, but they knew, I wouldn't even say it's a risk, obviously, now, but there was a reason, must have been a reason that Broncos didn't do it. And two, the way they've treated him as well. Like, Sheck has been open to give him the fullback role, and you can say what you want about Nathan Brown's approach, saying he's not ready for Origin and all that, and being quite critical, but hey, it's keeping him accountable, making sure his head doesn't get too big. So it's going to be one of the, it's a game changer having Reece Walsh come to the Warriors. It really is. And we look at it at the Broncos' point of view, but let's talk about it from the Warriors' point of view. It is awesome for New Zealand Rugby League, to be fair, to have an Australian star, because I don't think we really had an international star. Sam Tompkins was meant to be that, didn't pan out, but Reece Walsh, I think he might be our first one.
100%. And look, just quickly point, you mentioned him already, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, is that a lot of things I mentioned in Cam Smith when he was playing, how good of a captain he was. I'd want to put Roger Tuivasa-Sheck in that same bracket for a New Zealand or a Kiwis perspective, and just how high he's held in regards. And I just think how he's carried on this last year in his last season has been massive. With a lot of players you'd probably forgive if he wanted to stay in fullback and go out on his terms for his last year, but he's put his own self to the side, put the priorities of the club and the future of the club, which should show all the Warriors members, fans, that he wants everything right for the club moving forward. It's cool. Just great to see for him, and just a massive pat on the back for you, Roger. You're an absolute class act and deserve everything but success. And I'm hoping the Warriors can sneak into the 8 at the end of the year. That'll be a good reward for what you've done. Look, number 10 is a club that I've been very critical of. All my fans who watch the video will know this. I've gone in pretty hard with these guys, and I'll let Luke go first with these guys. But the Raiders coming 10th. 12 points, minus 66. Luke, you can go first with this one.
Speechless.
It's a bit like that.
Yeah. Talking about the Tigers and the Broncos. I probably wouldn't put Tigers quite in this ballpark, but being just probably one of the most disappointing teams, to be fair. And yeah, I guess what do you analyze from it? I think for me, there was like a statement game against the Bulldogs. Like they just welcomed back Josh Hodgson, and they were out there. Josh Parley, I think, had a rest, and it's like, sweet, they're gonna get their, A into G for this. And what happens? Something silly. Josh Parley, red card. Stuff like that. And yes, they won the match. Yeah, exactly. So it's just like little stuff like that. You think, the Rays of the past, all they need is just, to get a win, get a statement, and they'll get rolling. But just not working out. And look, I'll pass on to you because it's just head shaking. It is really head shaking. That's my biggest takeaway. Everything, and there's a lot of players I like from the Raiders. I'm a huge Josh Hodgson fan. But I'd like to see maybe him change the scenery too to get the best out of him. I still believe he can benefit the game, even though the rule changes probably don't suit him. I think it's just the environment affecting him because he's very similar to Cameron Smith. No, he's not Cameron Smith, but his game style is like Cameron Smith's, and we saw how Smith was still able to impact the game last year. So I'd love to see Josh Hodgson kind of going back to his old form.
Yeah, when I do these mid-season reviews and review teams, I look at what I originally said at the start of the year, compare that to sort of look into circumstances why they are or not where they should be. And for the Raiders, there's not much you can say for why. Every single rugby league pundit I've spoken to or whatever had them in the top 3 teams to beat.
Second.
They were right up there with Penrith and the Storm for that one of those teams that you just didn't want to beat. They should be right there to win the comp. And the Raiders have been absolutely, I'm trying to think of a nice phrase to say here, but they've been absolutely horrible. And really, I put it down to, I think Ricky Stewart's on his final legs as a coach. I think he's sort of done his dash there in terms of Ricky Stewart has this aura of being really hard on his players and really driving that. And I think he's shown over time he can only be at a certain club for a couple of years until players do start to get a bit over it. They want a bit more freedom. We've seen people like Bellamy, how he can balance that really well. I don't think Ricky Stewart can. He gets too sort of in the game and rides it really personally, which, look, isn't a bad trait to have when you're passionate about the club. But for mine, I think Rick Stewart, with his past, he normally gets a tap on the shoulder around this time for each club. And if only, he's probably been at the Raiders a year or two longer than normal. I personally think his time's going to come. They'll do it very respectfully because he's a club legend. But I feel like moving forward, they definitely need a change there at the coaching and just freshen the place up.
That's probably just the one thing I see why this might not happen, because of his legendary status at the club, and he's got a very close relationship. I think it's with the Fern. Is it Don Ferner? Yeah. So like if he was at any other club, I believe he's probably on his last legs. But because he's at the club that he brought a few premierships with, I don't know, but your logic's you're making sense. And
Look, number 9, a club that at the start of the year I had my hands up and I said, honestly, I don't know where these guys will finish. They could either finish last or edge of the 8. And at the moment,
I remember having this convo with you. Yeah.
And at the moment, this has been one of those seasons where they've had both last and now they're on the edge of the 8. They're 9. It's the Cowboys. This sums it up. They're on 14 points, so they've had 6 wins, so respectable, but they're on minus 121. And they're sitting edge of the 8. They've been in the 8 for a few weeks, and they just came out now because Sharks and Dragons won. But look, I sit here still, and I have no idea. The Cowboys could go on a small run again and end up in the 8 with probably the worst points differential of all time for a top 8 finisher, or they'll have a massive slide now and they'll end up finishing 3rd last, because I think Dogs and Broncos won't get overtaken. But Cowboys, it's just, I'm so confused by them still. I just don't even know what to make of them. It was like at the start, they were getting used to the Peyton coaching style. I think they finally got that, but then think it was last week or the week before they got beat by a fair margin. So a
2
few
weeks. They looked like they were getting a roll on. Then
Yeah.
there was 2 weeks in a row. It's like, no, hang on a minute. Now what? Yeah, like you said, I'll just carry on because my probably point is to do if I had them into my 8, but every year I do put them on my 8. I've got a little bit of a soft spot for the Cowboys. Have some family friends there, but I still always believe them. They've got rep talent. Obviously they had Michael Morgan and the injury worked out like it did. But yeah, there's optimism in and I've kind of, gave myself the, permission to put them in the 8 because of Top Hayton. Seeing what he did with the Warriors and seeing from the get-go, he was already making statements about how he was going to play Tamalolo, how he was going to, even though I didn't technically agree with Holmes in the wing, I'm someone that's always shifting my mind on wing and fullback, and I'm, I can admit that. But I just liked how he had an intent. But yeah, so Todd Payton's obviously had an effect. But yeah, 2 weeks ago, I would have been like, yep, got that one right. And now it's like, I don't know where. So it'd be interesting how they bounce after this origin, how they bounce come around after this origin period. Sorry.
Yeah, 100%. Look, 8th place, the Sharks. Look, I give these guys a bit of a pass mark. I thought this year was the year that they finally went below and down to the bottom 4, and valid reasons why they could have or should have. Look, they've picked themselves up. They're around the 8 once again. This club just finds a way each year to finish in the 8. It's actually pretty sensational how they can do it. But massive pat on the back so far. They've had a coaching swap. They've had a new coach going in next year, some player swapping and vice versa. And they've sort of been all over the shop, but they've been able to just hang on, come in 8th, 14 points, minus 44. So everything's fairly respectable. What are you making of the Sharks?
The club gets an F, the players get an A+, mate. Because to be able to put in performances after what they've been dealt with, and I understand the Crayford-Skiven signing because at the end of the day, he's probably going to get the bit. There is a realistic outcome that yes, the potential you're going to get to is more likely with Fitzgibbon over Morris, but the handling of it was awful. The letting go of Sean Johnson and just the announcing of players, departing early on. That's a bit like why, just especially with the Johnson one with Nico Hines, that fit makes sense. Anyway, that's going a bit off topic, but just want to kind of make a little bit of a bold call. I was looking at the Dally M points, and now with Cleary, because Nathan Cleary's side is injured. William Kennedy, he's going to be right up there. He was about the top 10 when voting went behind closed doors, and he definitely got 3 points the last game out. He had a blinder against someone. Absolute blinder. He is going to be up there. Do I want to say he's going to get it? You know what? I'll say he's going to get it because it'll make me sound like an absolute genius. But yeah, he is going to be up high. He is going to be up high.
That is bold in about type number 266. That's just all along your screen, ladies and gentlemen, and that is just massive.
Yeah, I know. Just have a look into it and think, I haven't really seen who the Sharks have seen, so it's going to probably have a big factor. Well, obviously, but yeah, just want to put it out there, put it into existence.
Well, my quick one will be that I think the Dally M is going to go to the winks of the field, and that will be Tommy Trbojevic. He's just going to come from out of nowhere in the polls, and now that Cleary's out as well, he's just going to streak it home in the last 100. The Dragons, 7th spot. Be quick on these guys. I don't really have much to say about them, to be honest. They're just... Look, I did predict them for the last place. I'll give them a wrap. They have done well to get to where they are. I thought they were going to struggle this year. Some interesting signings so far with Maguire, one of them going over to the club. Wasn't 100% sure. McCulloch's been a good signing. Fixed up that hooker department while McInnes is gone. He was going to go anyway, whether he's injured or not, because the Sharks are about to sign him immediately. But look, Dragons, pass mark. They're 7th, 14 points, minus 11. They've been able to stay thereabouts. Just be interesting in a run home if they can stay there. Got any quick thoughts on the Dragons?
Oh, well, I had them in Spooners, so yeah, credit to them. And I think it was probably a reminder how much of an impact like past connections have. Obviously, basically it's the old Broncos, but hey, they're familiar with each other. They trust each other because they've been there, done that before. So for me, yeah, Ben Hunt has proved me wrong. Not the fact that I didn't think he was a good player, just thought his best days were centre hooker. He's been probably top 5 form halfback this year off the top of my head when he's been playing. Yeah, been very impressed with him. So yeah, it's been, credit to the Dragons. Proved a lot of people wrong. I'm definitely one of many that had them as my wooden spooners.
Yeah, I want to move on to 6 now, and it's tongue in cheek. I say this, but it's the Tom Trbojevic Sea Eagles. They're on 18 points, plus 65. Look, after 4 or 5 weeks, they were sitting, I think, dead last, and they had a minus difference of over 100, I'm pretty sure. Turbo's come in and just done absolute wonders for this side. He is the form player of the comp at the moment, no questions asked, especially with Cleary now out, but he's just a freak. There's a few players there that just seems to grow an extra couple of legs when he is there. And he's obviously helped out people like Cherry Evans, who for mine doesn't do much, but gets carried on Trbojevic's back. And I just can't say enough about Tom, and he's just an absolute star. Manly will trouble a lot of these teams in the 8 at the end of the year because of this superstar in Tom Trbojevic.
Oh, for sure, man. And probably just, it's the obvious storyline, really. But let's just look at, I think, probably one of the most important wins of the season for any team was their win against the Cowboys, where they absolutely smashed them. Because who wasn't there? Tommy wasn't there. So they're probably hearing orders press that Tommy's MVP. Tommy turns there from a 1 to a 10. They did that without Tom Trbojevic. After being, I think it was 10 or 12 points down in that game as well, that should give them a lot of confidence and show, yes, we're not going to win the premiership without Tommy, but hey, we don't need him to win footy games. We are talented. Tommy's not, he's not like the secret juice. Like we can win without him if we need to. It's not just Tommy. So that was an impressive one for me.
Yeah, 100%. Look, 5th place, and it's a club for mine you could easily forgive if they had slipped and from now on and they were out of the 8 and they were struggling, but they haven't, which is a credit to the organisation, it's a credit to their coach, and it's a credit to the players that are still there, which is obviously the Sydney Roosters. 20 points, plus 122. They're still doing well. Look, they have struggled to beat the top teams. Understandably, though, they've lost, I think it was 3 players now for retirements mid-season, and I can't remember the last time a side had lost. And they've lost, it's not just they've lost players, they've lost 3 of their best players as well. It's a crazy thing to go through, but the organisation continues on. They've also had probably one of the worst runs in terms of suspensions and injuries for the year to date. So if there's a team that can carry on about being unfairly disadvantaged with all that, it's this side, but you don't hear anything come out of them. It's such a professional run place, and it's like they just see it as another challenge. And when you got Teddy there and Walker's coming through, it's brilliant times for the Roosters. Massive pass mark for mine for this year so far, even though they're only 5th. But look, I'll be giving them, as you said, the old-fashioned A in that sort of a grade because of what they've gone through. What's your take of the Roosters?
Yeah, no, very much similar. I guess probably one thing we can touch on quickly is just like, we'll say what we want about the salary sombrero with the Roosters. They've got an eye for talent, and we see Joey Manu, who's been kind of left on the edge, best centre in the world. When he's given the chance at fullback at 6, like if you can definitely see if he's playing there for a full season, you'll be talking about him as a top 10 player of the game. Like he's a freakish talent. I'm not saying he'd be top 10 player on game right now, but yeah, give him a full season there. If you're telling me he is, I wouldn't push against it. He's a freak. And Sam Walker, there's unearthed. They probably have unearthed him a bit earlier than they, would have wanted to. Even though he was definitely talented enough to do it, but the injuries have happened, and they're taking care of him too. even though, yes, you can sign all the players you want, you got to make sure they want to stay. And I think they're doing the right things to do that. And winning's going to help that too, showing that they can win without, their main cast as well. So, yeah, credit to the Roosters. One of my least favourite sides, being a Storm fan back in the day when they'll, back in the day, 2019, 2018. But, yeah, they're a team I kind of root for now because it's been awesome to see. Just credit to a great organisation and Trent Robinson.
100% agree with that. Fourth place, the mighty Rabbitohs, 24 points, so equal second. Only plus 105 though, which I thought was a bit odd, but they did have a couple of big losses in the middle of the year, and then one of them was over 50 points. And you know what they say, you can't win the premiership if you concede 50 points or above.
Done.
Can the Rabbitohs do that? Can they be the first team to turn it around?
Well, if any team was to do it, it'd be the Rabbitohs. And it probably just points to the fact that on their day, yeah, they're right up there for storming the Panthers. Their left edge is unbelievable. It just picks teams apart. Yeah, but there's something missing with the Rabbitohs. There's something there, and I thought maybe they were going to kind of gain it this year. I don't know how. Maybe they just give the team too many outs a lot of the time. Even against the bad teams, they shouldn't say bad teams, but the bottom of the 8 teams. They seem to make it a lot tougher than it needs to be, and sometimes have to come back and then they then showcase how great they are on attack. But there's just a little bit of their identity that needs to be tweaking. And if someone's going to get it out of them at the back end of the season, it's Wayne Bennett. Especially last time, you think actually a lot of people wrote them off and they were 6. They had an interesting end to the season, but they were Reynolds' foot behind the 40-meter from going to the grand final. Yeah. So have faith in Wayne Bennett. Any coach is going to, like you said, get over that 50-point kind of curse. It'll be him.
Here's an interesting one because for mine, South, I said at the start of the year, my predictions, I said they'd win the comp. I said, though, they wouldn't finish mine in premiers. This is to give myself a little bit of a pat on the back here. I said they would actually time their run really well this year. Wayne Bennett would have them primed. I didn't think that would include a loss by 50 points. So that is a chink in the armour a little bit. I can understand what you're saying there. I guess what I can see also is that I had Latrell Mitchell to win the Dally M, and I think this year he's been up there. He's been a phenomenal player so far, and we've seen that at Origin. So for mine, they did have those losses when he wasn't there, and I think that's their version of Tom Trbojevic, South Sydney. So when he's not there, especially this year, because for some reason Cody Walker hasn't been himself. I think maybe because he's been thrown back to fullback and things like that, but doesn't mean the strike force he normally is. In saying that, left edge is still going phenomenally well. But I just feel like I'm with you. There was a little bit missing, but I'm going to put that down to Wayne Bennett trying to time their run a bit better this year, so they're full of the tank for the come finals, making sure they make the top 4, and Latrell Mitchell back fully healthy. Look, third team, my team, obviously, the Eels. Look, sitting there on 24 points, I reckon we've been a bit under the radar, which I haven't minded. We're plus 202, so that's all looking pretty good so far. Look, probably the same as South, if I'm being honest. The team that there's a little bit missing for some reason. It just haven't been able to put a full 80-minute performance together yet. And look, there's 2 ways to look at that. You can say, well, it's not good enough. We're not a premiership contender. Or you can say, well, we're able to be third and we haven't played full 80 minutes yet, and we've beaten the Storm, who were almost full strength at the time. We're versing Penrith this week, who obviously is without Nathan Cleary. We've beaten the Roosters as well. So we've beaten some pretty big teams. Obviously, the loss to Manly will probably be the stinger, and South. But, look, I don't know. I'm not going to sit there and say that we'll win the comp, but I still think we're a top 4 side. What's your unbiased view on the Parramatta Eels, Luke?
Look, I'm a Power supporter in the sense that I hope they go well. I'm always a guy that wants them to prove kind of the hate is wrong, so to say. But for me, the Rabbitohs and the Eels are in the same boat in terms of finals footy is when we're going to find out if they've gone up another level from the year before. And that probably speaks most true about their star in Mitchell Moses. So for me, they've added a little elements to the game this year that I've been really impressed by, which has given me more hope, like Parley, Cartwright, who I'm still not completely sold on, but he's proven me wrong to a degree. Yeah, so there's little elements to make them better. The Blake Ferguson piece is interesting, so that's kind of taking something away. But he wasn't great last year either. So yeah, I'm hoping to do well, but they've looked good since Dylan Brown's been back too. He's shown how important he is. And Reed Mahoney, talk about like a Dally M Smokey potentially as well. He's been awesome. He's gone to another level too.
100%. Now getting to the top two, the big dogs at the comp so far. Second, they've finally fallen from their perch. They've had a couple of losses. It's the Penrith Panthers. 15 wins, 26 points, plus 311 at this time of year is crazy. They've been so good. They've fallen a little bit with Origin, which I think a few of us did expect to finally happen. Now they've got an injury or two to some key players as well, which is going to start impacting not just Cleary, but Dylan Edwards is out again. He has had a horrible run with injury lately, but all the best to him. Look,
is he out again? Is he? Sorry, just to go
out for at least this week, I think. Maybe, but they got the bye after this as well, so he should be back that week after. But again, it's just a little bit of it's probably an annoyance more than anything for them.
Yeah.
The Clear is the big one. How long is he finally out for? I think it's a bit of smoke and mirrors. I think it's going to be longer than the 4 weeks that they've initially said. It's a shoulder. You don't want to push him. In saying that, Luai for mine's been the underrated player of the year. Everyone talks about Cleary, but Luai's been phenomenal. Burton can do a job there at half, so they're glad that they actually kept him. Unlucky to the Bulldogs, but that's the reason why they have. It's actually happened what they needed to do. It's a massive pass mark. They've been phenomenal before Origin, and it was just the Penrith Panthers. They'll be there at the grand final. For mine, taking on the Storm, which we'll get to. But what do you make of the Panthers?
Well, yeah, they're scary because I'm a Storm fan, so we'll get to them very shortly. But yeah, they're a scary side, man. I saw those player polls that come out, and I think they had a guy featured in each top 5. I believe their back line, everyone, their back line was number 1 player in their position, except for, not Dylan Edwards, sorry. The fullback was the only one. And I think Stephen Pryor might have been second. And then James Fisher-Harris, probably my underrated player of the season. He is probably the best big man in the game. Even he's gone past Damalola in my eyes, I believe. And you definitely can't question that based on form. But yeah, they're scary. I think, and also there could be a blessing in disguise with Cleary injured. If he's able to come back from this in enough time, they wouldn't have dropped enough games. I believe they'll still be in the top 2. He can be well rested. And yeah, I think each team kind of needs to experience a little bit of a lull. And yeah, and look, we're going to probably roll into the Storm here. Even though it looks like
we'll do that straight away. Get into it now. You're a Melbourne fan, so I'll let you go first with your biased views, of course. Melbourne quickly, 26 points, first place, 15 wins as well, plus 344. So I think they've won, 10 or something games by 40 or more or something at the moment, or 30 or more. It's
quite a record, I believe, just to rub it in.
Yeah, well, off you go. Have your minutes to just gloat.
Oh, I won't go too much, man. Like, you see everything that's been said, and I had them because like I say, even though I run a page, I do have to say, yes, you're always going to be a sense of bias because you're always just going to look optimistic. And I had them winning the premiership, and I thought this could really blow up in my face because a lot of people did have them high. But the thing is, we lost the best player, arguably, even to play the game, arguably. And in my bias view, he is. But you got Harry Grant, you got Cameron Smith, you got Ryan Pappenhausen. You know, you've got all these reasons why. You've got the culture as well. So there was reason to believe, but yes, Cameron Smith's a big loss. And look, they've adapted to the game. They play great footy style. They just do. And it's been, I think the biggest thing for me is the casualty ward. I wish I had it up there. How many games Pappy's been at? How many games Munster? How many games how many games. So Grant's been out. Jerome Hughes is the only one that hasn't missed significant time. That's been the key. Oh, and Brandon Smith. Brandon Smith's been awesome. He's proven me a little bit wrong. I thought his best position was a 13, but he's been awesome. So, yeah, just the way we've been able to deal with injuries. And Dale Finucane's been back, and he's just, his values just skyrocketed, Yeah, I've just been very impressed because they've just been able to just go to another level and it hasn't been smooth sailings in the sense of, they haven't been injury free. It's been awesome. It has been a great season as a fan, just the post Smith era.
Yeah, 100%. And as much as I hate the Storm, I love watching them at the moment, and it's just they've been phenomenal. It's been so good to watch. For mine. We always know about the stars they have. So the Munsters, the Pappenhausens, Hughes has gone to that level now, and obviously the all-star forward pack. But for mine, it's been some of these guys that have come up as that we hear it a lot at the moment, that next man mentality. So I'm talking about your Nico Hines and your Brandon Smith. For mine, I want to touch on these two because they've been phenomenal. Both players are sort of at the start of the year, wasn't sure what their best position was. It was probably positions that they're not playing now and starring in, which goes to show how good they are going. Brandon Smith obviously has been rumoured to be looking elsewhere either next year or the year beyond that for a starting hooker role. Many of us believe you're kidding yourself. You're a lock forward, you're not a hooker. But after seeing him so far this year stand in for Grant, and he's gone that well that Grant starts on the bench now, which I think suits the Storm. Get Brandon Smith to do the hard stuff at the start. He loves it. But just his game management as well. When they haven't had these star playmakers in, he just seems to dominate it. He loves it. And it's sort of Smith-esque, or Cameron Smith, I should say, not Brandon Smith, but of how he actually goes about it now. It's phenomenal to watch. And any club should be looking at pulling their pants down basically to get him there. And especially someone like the Tigers or the Bulldogs, people like that who just need it. Even the Broncos. Like I know they're talking about getting Josh Hodgson in, which fair enough. But if I was them, I'd be looking at Brandon Smith and going really, really hard for him. He's a character.
Fits your timeline better too.
Yeah, he's a character, but he's one of those guys. He's a bit of character, but when it comes to footy and training, he's switched on and he's there to do a job, which is what they need. And Nico Hines, he's a fullback. He's going to be a star fullback for years to come. He'll soon quickly get up to, if he's not already there, a top 5 fullback, which is a credit to everyone. And Storm do this so well. They bring in the guys that people don't want, sign them on low contracts, bring them in, salary caps, all well and good. But well done to the Storm. Look, this has been fantastic. Hopefully everyone gets a good insight into it. If I was this season, anything can happen now with the new rules, the injuries, state of origin is just about to finish. Players are coming back. I think it's safe to say probably the top 6 are settled. But 7th and 8th are up for grabs, as well as a wooden spoon between the Dogs and the Broncos. If I was to get your quick prediction, Luke, who would you say who gets the wooden spoon and who gets the last 2 top 8 spots? So while you think, I'll quickly run through the.
You go yours.
So we've got the Storm, Penrith, Eels, Rabbits, Roosters, and Manly all guaranteed a spot for mine.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say. Whatever order, we're not too sure yet. That could change. But the top 4 do have a 2-game gap already, which is going to be handy. Look, the rest of the teams from 7th down to 14th can probably all make it, but they've been so up and down and so hot and cold. I want to say. I'm going to go the Raiders to do 7th just because I feel like they have to. With the players they've still got there, they have to do something, and I'm going to put some faith in they actually can. The 8th team for mine, it's a toss-up between the Warriors or the Titans. I'm going to go a nice thing because I know at the end of the year they get to finally go back home. I'm going to say that's enough to fuel the Warriors' run home and say the Warriors make 8th. Wooden spoon. Sorry to say, but there's too much going on at the Broncos, too much outside noise still. They'll get back-to-back.
Yeah. I haven't thought about this too much. Obviously, you put me on the spot, so thanks, Joel. But with the wooden spooners, too much chop and changing for the Broncos. At least the Bulldogs kind of embracing something at the moment with what they're doing, and they seem to have a little bit of momentum, kind of. So yeah, Broncos, and two teams you didn't mention in your the three teams you're tossing up. Sharks. I'm gonna put the Sharks in there. I think, yeah, they've got this joy back in their footy now that they've kind of gotten over all the turmoil. And I'm gonna go with the Cows. Gotta go with the Cows. Todd Payton. Look, I think they might go firing a bit after Origin. That's what I'm praying for too. But yeah, there's a couple of spots I'd love to see the Warriors get in there. Really would. And we're probably overlooking the Dragons. Probably going to prove us wrong again.
Yeah, well, no doubt at all. Thanks, Luke. Yeah. Thanks for jumping on, guys. Give him a follow, Rugby League Lounge, brilliant page. I'll tag him in once I upload this video, so it's easy for everyone to give him a follow. Luke, enjoy. I know we've got some videos coming up as well, so tune in, guys. Some much more collaborations coming in. But yeah, enjoy your arvo, bro.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. You too. Very much enjoyed coming on.
Cheers. Thank you.